Nellie's Promise, 1906. By Valerie Tripp. Illustrations by Dan Andreasen. Vignettes by Susan McCallany. Chapter 1. The Luckiest Girl. Nellie O'Malley skipped cheerfully along the city sidewalk. I am the luckiest girl in New York, she thought. It was late afternoon, nearly dusk. A strong March wind made Nellie's coat flap and fly out behind her like wings. Nellie tucked the newspaper she was carrying tighter under her arm and snuggled her chin deep into her collar. She almost enjoyed being cold because she knew that soon she'd be warm and cozy at home. Home. Nellie smiled. Finally, she and her little sisters, Bridget and Jenny, had a home again. It was a real home, too, where they were safe and loved. For more than a month now, they had been living with Nellie's friend Samantha and Samantha's Uncle Gard and Aunt Cornelia. Nellie thought that Samantha was the best friend anyone could ever have. She was kind and generous, and she was brave, too. Samantha had rescued Nellie and her sisters from Cold Rock House for homeless girls. She shivered as she walked, not from the cold wind, but from the memory of the past sad, scary winter. Back in December, Nellie's mother and father had both died of influenza. Nellie had solemnly promised her dying mother that she would always, always keep Bridget and Jenny safe. Nellie had tried hard to keep her promise to her mom. The three girls, still grieving for their parents, had to go live with their terrible Uncle Mike, who took everything the girls owned, sold it for drink, and then disappeared. The girls were left to their own in the middle of a bleak, cold January. Nellie struggled to take care of Bridget and Jenny in Uncle Mike's dirty, dreary apartment, where rats scrabbled in the walls at night, and dark hallways reeked of garbage. But Nellie had no money or food or coal, so in desperation, the girls ended up at the orphanage. Nellie was about to be separated from her sisters and sent west on one of the orphan trains when Samantha found the girls and brought them home to Uncle Gard and Aunt Cornelia. Lamplight spilled out of the windows of the houses. Nellie passed. She remembered when she did not even dare to look into those beautiful, warmly lit houses, but could only scurry past and imagine what life was like inside. It seemed like a miracle now that she was headed home to a beautiful house herself, bringing Uncle Gard his evening newspaper. Nellie skipped happily. It was a pleasure to be helpful to Uncle Gard and Aunt Cornelia. Nellie loved to go out and do errands for them. Even more, she loved coming home. Nellie walked past the group of men working on the road crew. Suddenly, one of the men dropped his wheelbarrow full of dirt and paving stones and grabbed Nellie roughly by the arm. "So," the man growled in a harsh voice, "I found you." Nellie's heart stopped. It was Uncle Mike. Nellie had never been so unhappy to see anyone in her life. Oh, why couldn't Uncle Mike have just disappeared? Forever, she thought miserably. Uncle Mike eyed Nellie's fine coat and boots. "Well, well, look at you," he said. "I'm gone 2 months, and I come back to find you dressed like a rich girl. You and Bridget and Jenny must be living with folks who have lots of money. How lucky! Who are these rich swells, Nellie girl? And where do you do they live?" Nellie was shaking with fear, but she was determined not to tell Uncle Mike anything. Uncle Mike smiled a nasty smile. His mean eyes narrowed. "All right, you stubborn brat," he said. "Don't tell me. I'll find out myself. When I do, I'll come and get you and your sisters. I'll take you back to live with me. I've every right to do that. You know, I'll put the 3 of you to work in the factory so that you can bring your wages home to me." "No!" Nellie exploded. "Don't you come near us!" And with that, Nellie stomped hard on Uncle Mike's foot, wrenched her arm out of his grasp, and took off running. Uncle Mike started to chase her, but he stumbled over his wheelbarrow and sprawled onto the sidewalk. The road crew boss hollered, "Get back to work, O'Malley!" So Nellie got away. She heard Uncle Mike shout after her, "Run, Nellie girl! But remember, I'm your uncle. You belong to me." "You belong to me." The words dogged Nellie as she kept running as fast as she could all the way home. Even after Nellie closed the heavy door to Uncle Gard and Aunt Cornelia's house behind her, she seemed to hear the words, "I'm your uncle. You belong to me." Nellie shuddered. The words were scary and awful, and worst of all, true. "Please, please, please," chirped Bridget and Jenny in their clear, fluttery voices. "Please read us another page, just one more." Uncle Gard laughed. "That's what you said 3 pages ago," he protested. "But all right." Nellie looked up from the pinafore she was hemming for Bridget. It was after dinner, and everyone was gathered in the parlor. Uncle Gard was reading aloud to Bridget and Jenny. They perched snugly beside him in his chair, like baby birds safe in a nest. Aunt Cornelia was teaching Samantha how to play chess. The parlor was warm from a fire in the grate. The gentle golden glow of the lamps lit Nellie's face and cast her soft shadow on the wall behind her. Nellie held back a sigh. She wished all the shadowy troubles of her life were behind her too. Over and done with. It was so lovely to have warm clothes and a full stomach, and to see Bridget and Jenny so happy. If they knew that Uncle Mike had come back, their happiness would be ruined. Uncle Gard and Aunt Cornelia would worry, and Samantha would be miserable. Nellie made up her mind. I'll keep Uncle Mike a secret," she decided. "I won't tell anyone that I've seen him." Nellie put down her sewing. "Bridget and Jenny," she said in a motherly way, "come along now. I'll give you your baths and put you to bed." "Oh, please, no," said the 2 little girls said. They hugged Uncle Gard and turned their faces up to him pleadingly. "We don't have to go yet, do we, Uncle Gard?" Before Uncle Gard could answer, Nellie said, "Now, girls, do as you're told." Nancy apologized to Uncle Gard. "I'm sorry. They're pestering you, sir." "It's quite all right, Nellie," said Uncle Gard. "I like being pestered by these 2 cherubs. And please, you don't have to call me sir. You and I are family now." Aunt Cornelia added gently, "Gertrude can bathe the girls and put them to bed. You don't have to, dear." Nellie blushed. Bridget and Jenny had slipped easily into their new lives as beloved little girls in a wealthy household. It wasn't easy for Nellie. She had worked all her life and was used to being useful. Also in her heart, Nellie had never truly trusted that this new life would last. Now that Uncle Mike was back, she was quite sure that it wouldn't. She believed that Uncle Gard and Aunt Cornelia wanted to adopt her and her sisters, but Mike O'Malley was their real uncle. As he had just reminded her, they belonged to him. Nellie didn't see how Uncle Gard or Aunt Cornelia could stop Uncle Mike from taking them back, as he had threatened to. Aunt Cornelia tugged the bell pull, and Gertrude appeared, ready to take Bridget and Jenny upstairs. Gertrude looked cross and put on. Nellie could tell that Gertrude resented being a maid for maids, which is what Nellie and her sisters probably would have been if Samantha had not changed everything. "Come along, you two," Gertrude said tartly to Bridget and Jenny. The little girls hugged Uncle Gard even more and closely and hid their faces against him. Nellie chided them. "Now, girls," she began, but Samantha stood up. "Bridget and Jenny," she said, "why don't you come upstairs now, and I will tell you a story while Gertrude gives you a bath." "Oh, good, a story," said the two girls. They adored Samantha. They thought that she was the most wonderful storyteller in the world. Bridget and Jenny kissed Uncle Gard, Aunt Cornelia, and Nellie good night. Then they trotted off happily, hand in hand with Samantha. Grumpy Gertrude left too. Nellie bent her head over her sewing, thinking how lucky she was to have Samantha for a friend, and sweet Bridget and Jenny as sisters. "Don't you worry, Mom," she promised. "No matter what happens, I will protect Bridget and Jenny, even if Uncle Mike takes us away from here. I will work and do whatever I have to keep Bridget and Jenny safe and happy, just as I told you I would. I don't know how, but I'll do it." "Psst," whispered Samantha. "Nellie!" "What?" Nellie whispered back. Nellie and Samantha were at school in dancing class. Nellie was bending over backward. She looked at Samantha under her arm, which she was supposed to be fluttering gracefully over her head like a slender branch in a breeze. Unfortunately, Nellie actually looked more like she was using her arm to swat flies. Samantha nodded toward Nellie's knee. "Your stocking," she hissed. Nellie looked. "Oh no, not again," she groaned. Nellie was so thin that the athletic uniform the girls wore for dance class swam on her. The uniform consisted of a blouse, stiff, black, knee-length bloomers, and over-the-knee stockings. The bloomers were supposed to be fastened under the girls' knees tightly enough to hold up the stockings. But Nellie's legs were so spindly that her bloomers ballooned loosely, and her stockings always drooped. Just now, one of the stockings had fallen down completely and was puddled around her ankle. Nellie yanked it up and tucked it back into the baggy bloomers. But she knew it was no use. Sure enough, the stocking was soon droopy again. For the rest of class, Nellie did the dance of droop and yank with her stocking. "It's not your fault," Samantha said as the girls sat down to lunch after dance class. "Those bloomers are too big for you. Ask Uncle Gard and Aunt Cornelia to buy you a smaller pair." "Oh no," said Nellie. Uncle Gard and Aunt Cornelia had given her so many things already. She couldn't ask for more. "Those bloomers are brand new." "They may be new," said Samantha, "but they just don't fit you at all." "I'm afraid that I just don't fit in that dancing class at all," said Nellie, smiling but shaking her head. "That kind of dance seems so silly to me. I can't see the use of pretending that I'm a tree." "Oh, well," said Samantha lightly, "not everything has to have a use, does it?" It's all right to learn something just because it's pretty or because it helps you express how you feel, isn't it? Well, yes, I guess so, Nellie agreed. It's just that Nellie didn't finish her sentence. She didn't know how to tell Samantha that now that Uncle Mike was back, everything had changed for her. Now Nellie felt an urgency to learn real things, practical things, so that she could get a good job someday and earn enough money to take care of her sisters. If Uncle Mike ripped her and her sisters away, Nellie did not want to have to work in a factory for the rest of her life. Only last week, classes in fluttery arm dancing had made Nellie laugh. Now they made her feel impatient. They seemed like a dangerous waste of time, but it would be ungrateful to say so, just as it would be unfriendly to tell Samantha that she didn't think she fit in with the other girls at school. Bridget and Jenny studied at home with a tutor, but Uncle Garden and Cornelia had enrolled Nellie in Samantha's school. Nellie looked fondly at her friend. Samantha was so good-hearted and accepting that she could not see that the other girls at school didn't know what to make of Nellie. They couldn't figure out whether Nellie was Samantha's maid or Samantha's sister. Nellie didn't really blame the girls for their confusion. She was confused about who she was too. But there was no doubt that there was a gap between Nellie and the girls at school. Their lives had been so different. "My birthday is coming up in 2 months," Samantha joked to Nellie as they sat at the lunch table with some other girls. "I'll ask for smaller bloomers for you." "Thanks," said Nellie with a grin. "Those hideous bloomers," groaned a girl named Louisa. "For my birthday, my parents are taking me up in a hot air balloon. I'd like to toss my bloomers over the side and never see them again." "Oh, we went up in a hot air balloon for my birthday when I turned 8, said a girl named Tissy. "You'll love it. When I was 8, my parents gave me a pony," said Louisa. She turned to Nellie and asked politely, "What happened on your 8th birthday?" "Well," Nellie answered honestly, "that was when I was working in the thread factory, so I don't think we really celebrated my birthday that year." "Oh," said Louisa, turning rather pink in the face. An awkward